Imagine a life where every headline screams your name, every mistake becomes a global meme, and every success just feels like another reason for the world to watch you fall. This isn't just fame, this is infamy. And at the center of it all, Charlie Sheen. He was once Hollywood's golden boy, the star who turned every single role into gold and every joke into a cultural catchphrase. But behind the laughter, the million-dollar paychecks and the infamous winning slogans, there was a man battling demons that no amount of glitter could ever hide. This story isn't about redemption, it's a revelation. It's about a man who lived too fast, fell too hard, and somehow, against all odds, found a way to stand up again. So sit back, because this isn't just another celebrity story. It's about what happens when genius meets self-destruction, and a legend is forged in the fire of public opinion. This is the story of Charlie Sheen. Born Carlos Irwin Estevez, Charlie Sheen grew up in the shadow of a Hollywood titan, his father, Martin Sheen. But he wasn't content to stay in the shadows. By his teens, Charlie was already hungry for the spotlight, drawn to the sound of cameras the way a moth is drawn to a flame. His breakout came with the iconic films Platoon and Wall Street. These weren't just movies, they were cultural landmarks, and Charlie wasn't just acting, he was living on screen. In those early years, Sheen wasn't just a star, he was the embodiment of the American dream. Young, reckless, magnetic, and seemingly untouchable. But success always comes with a price. For Charlie, fame wasn't a destination, it became an addiction. The more he got, the emptier he felt. Parties started replacing passion, and the roar of the applause drowned out any chance for peace. By the late 1990s, the headlines weren't about his movies anymore. They were about the chaos that surrounded him. And yet, Hollywood kept calling. Why? Because beneath all the scandal was a performer that no one, and I mean no one, could ignore. Every line he delivered on screen felt like a knowing wink to his off-screen reality. Charlie Sheen wasn't just playing roles anymore. He was playing himself, and the world couldn't look away. Then came the 2000s, the era of television royalty. 2.5 Men turned Charlie Sheen into one of the highest-paid actors in television history, earning nearly $2 million per episode. He had it all: the fame, the fortune, the adoring fans. But while the world saw a man at the peak of his powers, something inside him was beginning to crack. The world saw a man who was winning, but what they missed was the silent war raging behind his smile. Substance abuse, bizarre interviews, broken relationships. Each headline fed the growing myth but drained the man at its center. And when the meltdown finally came, it was spectacular. He declared himself a warlock, boasted about having tiger blood and Adonis DNA. The internet exploded with memes and jokes, but deep down, everyone knew they were witnessing a real-time public breakdown. Producers dropped him, studios distanced themselves, and Hollywood, the kingdom he once ruled, became a courtroom of critics. For most people, that would have been the end of the story. But Charlie Sheen was never built for a quiet exit. Instead, he took his chaos and turned it into a brand. He went on tour, owning his narrative and fully embracing the madness. He famously said, "I'm not bipolar, I'm bi-winning." It wasn't just arrogance, it was armor. In his world, vulnerability was a weakness, and Charlie Sheen had been taught to never, ever appear weak. But when the stage lights dimmed and the crowds went home, the truth began to surface. Behind all the showmanship was a man in profound pain, fighting addiction, facing serious health battles, and struggling to hold on to the relationships that his fame had fractured. This story doesn't glorify the downfall, it strips away the Hollywood mask. He later opened up about his HIV diagnosis, a moment when his long-held arrogance finally gave way to a painful awakening. He spoke about how the same fame that built him up had nearly destroyed him completely. There's a raw honesty in his reflections, moments of deep regret mixed with those flashes of humor that only Charlie could deliver. He owned the chaos, not as a badge of pride, but as a story of survival. This isn't a sob story, it's a confession, one that reminds us that behind every internet punchline, there's a human being craving redemption. Charlie's story forces us to ask ourselves a difficult question. Why do we love watching our stars burn out even more than we love seeing them rise? Fame isn't a reward. It's a brutal test that very few people survive. Redemption doesn't always arrive with a round of applause. Sometimes it comes in quiet acceptance. After years of chaos, Charlie Sheen began the slow, difficult process of rebuilding his life. Not as the sitcom king, but as a man finally ready to meet himself. He started focusing on his family, on forgiveness, and on finding a sense of purpose beyond the glare of the screen. No more tiger blood, no more warlock energy. Just a man who wanted peace. In his own words, he had to unlearn the performance and rediscover the person he was underneath it all. He began to speak about gratitude, admitting that surviving himself was the hardest role he's ever had to play. His comeback isn't measured in TV ratings or social media followers. It's measured in perspective. He learned a hard lesson. Success without peace is just noise. This journey stands as a roadmap from ego to empathy, from the spotlight to self-reflection. Because Charlie Sheen's real victory wasn't the fame. It was finally learning to be okay without it. Charlie Sheen's story is not about being perfect. It's about being painfully, unapologetically human. We've watched him fall, rise, and fall again, and through it all he remains one of the most unforgettable figures in modern entertainment. But his saga asks us to look deeper, to see the true cost of living a life where everyone is watching your every move. It teaches us that fame is not freedom. It's a mirror that magnifies everything, both the good and the bad. When Charlie once said, "I have one speed, go," it wasn't a boast. It was a reflection of a man who was finally learning how to slow down. Through loss, health scares, and relentless public judgment, he found humility, not through applause, but through accountability. And that's what makes this story so powerful. Because whether you're a fan, a critic, or just someone trying to make peace with your own mistakes, Charlie Sheen's journey mirrors a universal truth. We are all more than our worst headlines. We are all just trying to find that delicate balance between chaos and calm, between success and self-respect. The legend of Charlie Sheen will always be colored by controversy, but the man behind the legend, that's where the real story begins. In the end, this isn't about the fall or the fame. It's about the fragile, fierce beauty of a man finally learning to forgive himself. And maybe, just maybe, that's what true winning really means. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe. See you in the next one.